whose career would you want? I'm not sure he would have gone like as hard into Rodgers as he did, and it wasn't really that bad. These two guys, though, Chelsea, they play on Halloween in New York, so that's going to be one that we have to circle on the calendar, and I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will have circled on the calendar as well. My only thing with this is like CJ Stroud, for the most part, kind of said the right thing in terms of what we expect people to say, right? If you're a team player and a quarterback and someone who's leading your team, you want to be the one that's leading them to Super Bowls and rings, because that's the locker room trusts you. Like, you are the leader of that team. If CJ Stroud were to come out and say, well, I mean, those 4 MVPs, those look pretty enticing, I wouldn't mind having those on my resume. All of a sudden the narrative would have been CJ Stroud is only playing for himself. He's a guy who just wants to set records, win MVPs. It's like he couldn't win either way. So of course he's going to say, and it's probably true, I would prefer Super Bowls. And I think anyone you ask would say the same thing, because even though there are some players out there who we know like don't love whatever sport that they are a professional in, but hey, you're getting a pretty dang good paycheck, and so you do it for the money. Like, guys have come out and said that. I don't think anyone's coming out and saying, I'm only playing because I want individual accolades in a team sport. Like, that player is going to get absolutely crucified within the media, within his own team. Like, you're not going to be on the team if you say that. So this is what CJ Stroud is supposed to say.
Right.
Going on to say the Matthew Stafford stuff, that adds an extra layer, but I don't think he's all that off based on the culture that we've kind of come to see from Aaron Rodgers and how he has acted over the years.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Eli Manning answer. I don't think that one is that inflammatory, but Kate, there is more. Listen to what CJ Stroud had to say about Tom Brady, which we know Tom Brady's the GOAT, like, obviously, but there's a couple strays in here about Aaron Rodgers. He says this about Tom Brady. He says, I've talked to Tom Brady about this because he's a good mentor to me. What he told me is his teammates and how he treats his teammates. And that's where I think it falls off for Rodgers. We don't know how Aaron Rodgers treats his teammates, but you can guarantee that Tom Brady treats his teammates right, because that's how he got those rings. Okay, what about now?
Yeah, those are unnecessary jabs, whether they're true or not. Those are things that CJ Stroud's trying to stir the pot in some capacity. I don't know why, like, what's the driving factor behind wanting to take shots at Aaron Rodgers? Maybe there's another level to this, or another layer that we, the public, don't know about. Because there have been teammates of Aaron Rodgers that he's gotten along with great. I mean, just think about all the players
he brings them everywhere.
Yeah, he brought half them over to New York with him. So the culture isn't totally terrible around Aaron Rodgers. He's just a different guy in terms of, I don't know, you compare him to literally anyone and having a darkness retreat. And yes, all the things he does just is a little odd. Does that make him a bad teammate? Or does that make him, a bad culture driver? I don't know if that's correct. So, yeah, CJ Stroud definitely throwing some shade Aaron Rodgers' way, and maybe a little unnecessary shade at that.
I feel like you can't speculate on if somebody is a bad teammate or not unless you played on the team with them. And I don't think we've seen enough evidence from guys who have played with Aaron Rodgers to know that this is the case. Because remember that Hard Knocks that we saw with the New York Jets? Mm-hmm. Wasn't everybody like in love with Aaron Rodgers? And I know some of that was because they finally have a good quarterback and it was more, hope for the franchise. But still, love him or hate him, I'm not sure if we can say Aaron Rodgers is a bad teammate. And plus, do we not remember how Tom Brady was to his teammates in like his final year? Do we remember those videos of him yelling at his linemen? Do you remember that, Kate?
Yeah. Yeah. There's something that you can pick from everyone and point to it and say, you're a bad teammate because of this, or the culture's bad because of this.
I think Jason Tatum has mastered coach speak. Isn't this what it sounds like to you? It feels like he could have typed anything into ChatGPT and be like, yeah, what's an answer that nobody's going to get mad about? Do you think this goes against him, or do you think this is simply him trying to keep the attention on basketball, or do you think it's just his personality?
I'm excited to play basketball after a week off of not playing basketball. We're in the NBA finals. You saw our excitement after the conference finals. That, like, what? Imagine if I came on here, Chelsea, and was like, I really like the Dallas Mavericks plus 6.5 tonight. I think they're the better team, and I think they're going to have a lot of success against the Boston Celtics, who have been the best team all season. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. Like, no one would take my bet seriously, or myself as a person seriously. Are you excited, Jason? Are you excited to play in the NBA Finals? Was it exciting to win the conference finals? Show it a little. I think this is just who he is. Like, he's a very even keel, which is a good thing in sports. Everyone talks about don't get too high, don't get too low. And maybe I don't know him. I've never covered him personally, but maybe he's shy. Maybe he's an introvert, and like doing those press conferences are hard for him. Now, he's been doing them for quite some time. You'd think he'd get a little bit more comfortable. But it's hard to believe anything he's saying because there's no inflection in his voice at all. It's all very monotone. We are very excited. I know I'm a good player. We will get this done. Like, what? Are you with us, Jason? Are you here, present? Where is your mind right now? Because it sounds like your mind's in the clouds and you're just physically talking to us. I don't know. I mean, whatever. The press conferences, they're fun when you have a player like Luka or Anthony Edwards or someone who's got Jokic, someone who's going to give you some personality, but you got to take the good with the bad. And unfortunately, we get some players like Jason Tatum, who is very exciting to watch on the floor, not so exciting to talk to.
Well, this is why I think this is interesting and why I brought it up. Because doesn't it feel like this is the personality of the Celtics team this year? And as bettors, I think you need to realize that just because a team is boring doesn't mean that they're a bad team. And I think so many people have fallen in love with the storylines of the Mavericks. And I myself are one of them. I'll be taking the Mavs on the spread tonight, getting the 6.5. But do you think that the boringness of the Celtics is kind of leading people the wrong way? Like, do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. We just saw Luka with a step back 3 to win game 2 against the Timberwolves. That was exciting. Yeah. And many other moments throughout that series. The reason this would concern me at all from a betting perspective or from, even a fan perspective, if I was a big time fan of the Celtics, is that Jason Tatum did not command that press conference. He simply was just there. So how does that translate to being the leader of your team? Does he talk
especially
to his team
when that's already a question?
Right.
Like, isn't this the question that everybody's asking?
Right.
He's like, he's not the clutch guy.
We're seeing it in these press conferences of like, are you the one getting in your teammate's face when it's a 5-point game with 2 minutes left and someone, like, are you motivating your team? Are you being that vocal leader? Right. When you talk like this and you have literally no enthusiasm, will anyone want to listen to me as a leader when I'm speaking like that? And again, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not around the team. I don't know if he does get fired up, but I want to see my leader like really command everything he does, from on the floor, in the locker room, to press conferences. And to me, that's just not like a commanding voice where I can totally trust you. Which, to your point, Chelsea, what we want. Is the knock on Jason Tatum. Yeah.
Because it goes in line with the narratives against him. Because don't we want our NBA superstars to have that killer instinct? To speak like Kobe Bryant? To speak like Michael Jordan? Hell, to speak like Anthony Edwards. And maybe that's the wrong thing because Anthony Edwards is sitting at home right now. But look at guys like Jimmy Butler. The way he has so much confidence in his team, even when nobody else does. And maybe it's the case of the Celtics don't really need anybody's confidence because the numbers kind of speak for themselves. But I think that's why people kind of shy away from Jason Tatum. And maybe that's why he's underrated. Like, I've heard this from people who cover the NBA saying Jason Tatum is the second best player in the series. And I think there's a lot of basketball casuals, or, if you're just talking about in isolation, people who would say it's Luka, then Kyrie, then Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum is a damn good player, But when it comes to this level and when it comes to winning championships, people want the killer instinct. And we'll see. We'll see if it matters in this NBA Finals. But right now, that's the narrative. And that's the narrative that's going to exist if the Celtics don't win.